not alone anymore. Sonic woke up with a start, drenched in a cold sweat, and breathing heavily. The hedgehog took a moment to readjust to his surroundings. His bed, his room, his house, his planet. Right, another nightmare. Groggily, Sonic ran a hand over his face. Pores beating again wouldn't just make his memories vanish. Despite the fact he was now doing better than ever before, friends and family had a warm embrace around him at all times. Whenever he tried to get his necessary beauty rest, frightening flashes of Longclaw's goodbye through a fading ring portal still haunted him. Shuffling quietly along the floorboards of his attic bedroom, Sonic slipped out the hatch door and down the stairs. He did want to jump out the top window like he normally did for a quick escape. He usually needed a bit of a running start, and he didn't want to wake anyone else. It came as a surprise. Then, when he found Knuckles already awake downstairs, the Echidna was perched on the plush couch of the living room, his elbows resting on his knees so that he could support his chin in his hands. Knuckles' stare was blank ahead of him, like his mind was somewhere far away. Sonic turned to find somewhere else to feel sorry for himself, but his movement caught Knuckles' attention.
Sorry if I woke you.
Sonic whispered, leaning against the open wall that divided the main hall from the living room, shaking his head. Knuckles replied,
I've been awake for a few hours now.
Sonic studied the Echidna's face. He didn't think he'd ever seen Knuckles look so glum. Sonic supposed that was partially due to the dim light, and the fact he'd only known Knuckles for about a week and a half. The hedgehog shimmied round the coffee table and planted himself down into the couch, not quite close enough to Knuckles to be deemed invading his personal bubble. Sonic lay back against the cushions, letting out a long sigh as he did so. He wanted to ask why Knuckles was having trouble sleeping, but now that he'd sunk into the softness of the furniture, Sonic was feeling sleep return to himself. Luckily, Knuckles was the one to strike up the conversation he was clamoring for.
Could you not sleep?
The Echidna asked, his voice soft, like the moonlight that bathed both of them from the window. Sonic shook his head.
Nah, I get bad memories that show up in my dreams sometimes.
When Knuckles didn't respond, but seemed to understand on a deep level, Sonic added,
You get them too.
The Echidna scoffed.
You are hasty to assume such things, but...
The distant look returned to Knuckles' eyes.
Of course I do.
The two did want to tread on each other's boundaries. Mentioning the past was a touchy subject for both, obviously, having been the root of a decades-long trauma that had dug its claws deep into their hearts and stayed there, no matter how hard they'd tugged to get it out. Eventually, Knuckles laid down next to Sonic in the same way the hedgehog had, with his legs hung over the edge of the couch, and his head resting on the seat cushions. The Echidna breathed deep through his nose, a grounding and calming sound that, in turn, made Sonic release a breath he didn't know he was holding either.
It sucks.
Sonic muttered.
Like, I move on, but my dumb brain just keeps reminding me what I left behind. What's the big idea? I just want to sleep.
Knuckles scoffed, albeit gently, and hummed in agreement.
I suppose.
You know, am I making sense?
I must admit, you lost me quite a while ago.
Knuckles found Sonic's exasperation at his admittance amusing.
Although these experiences do tend to be tedious, allow yourself respite in the fact you do not face them home.
What now?
Sonic seemed to be lost on what Knuckles' words meant. The Echidna rolled his eyes.
I get nightmares too, so therefore we have that in common. We can take solace in each other's champagne.
Sonic was sad as he listened to Knuckles console him. It was really nice. Knuckles had a way of speaking that sounded like he was writing poetry with his lips, and the timbre of his baritone voice was soothing.
I guess you're right, Knucklehead. Thanks.
Sonic offered the Echidna a wide smile. Knuckles returned it with a smile of his own. Despite the size of the smile not being half of Sonic's, the hedgehog still found it sweet.
I'll mind if I stay here.
The Echidna hesitated for a moment before sighing.
I suppose I cannot stop you if you wish to remain next to me.
Yeah, I'm unstoppable, told you.
Of course, I would have no trouble removing you from the touch, should I choose to do so.
Knuckles reiterated with a scoff.
Sure, buddy.
The two shuffled into a more comfortable position. Having a couch big enough to fit both of them was handy, and they arranged themselves so that they were top and tail, with their heads at opposite sides. Luckily, the blanket that the Wachowskis had given for Knuckles to use was large enough to accommodate them both as well. For a while, Sonic just lay awake, listening to Knuckles' breath. It was kind of strange having a sleepover with the Echidna. Even though they'd shared a nice moment a few seconds prior, Sonic was still worried about overstepping boundaries. It seemed Knuckles was having the same conundrum, as the hedgehog noticed his breathing remained consistent but never really settled into an unconscious-sounding pattern.
Sonic,
Knuckles ended up whispering after about 10 minutes of silence.
Yes?
can I ask you about that day?
Sonic wasn't expecting the question, but a part of him itched to finally get the heavy weight of his past out of his system. He supposed Knuckles was trustworthy to know the Echidna had pretty much gone through the same thing. What stopped him from telling Tom and Maddie the ins and outs of his trauma was that he didn't want to therefore burden them with his emotional baggage. They were already perfect parental figures, so he wanted to be a perfect son. With Knuckles, though, it seemed like a good opportunity to get a mutual understanding of what had happened between them, to open up new perspectives, and to make sense of the tragedy. Taking a deep breath, Sonic began to relay everything he knew about what had happened. He had been running around, carefree, to bring Longclaw a gift of a sunflower. The Echidnas had ambushed them in their own home, before Longclaw was struck down and Sonic was sent to Earth alone. The hedgehog stressed the fact that he'd believed for 10 years that it was his fault, because of his recklessness, running around the island after being instructed not to. The Echidna tribe had come knocking to steal his power away.
After the portal closed, I didn't know what to do.
Sonic began to draw his recount of events to a close, mainly because he felt his throat begin to tighten and his eyes begin to water.
I just kind of stood there for ages panicking. Eventually I set up shop in a cave in the woods and got curious about the local town. And well, here I am now.
Knuckles listened with laser intensity to the whole thing. It pained him to think of what his tribe had done to the hedgehog, even if their actions were justified by an ancestral objective of retrieving a lost item. The image of a younger Sonic, losing his only caretaker and loved one, having to scavenge the earth for survival purposes, flashed in Knuckles' mind, and he felt it stab at his heart.
I'm sorry.
Knuckles said gently.
Knowing my tribe's actions cause you great suffering is something that brings me discomfort. My pursuit of you as an enemy did not help in that, I imagine.
That means a lot, buddy, but it's not your fault. I guess back then we were forced to be enemies, huh?
Sonic felt a significant weight lift from his chest, even though the emotions were now rawer than ever. Having someone to listen to him and comfort him in the moment was a wonderful feeling. He wondered if it would do the same for Knuckles.
And me if I'm wrong, or tell me to show up if I'm overstepping, but I'm pretty sure if I was the last link to avenging your tribe, I'd have gone after me too.
It's true, I despised you.
Not pulling punches here, are you?
Sonic joked. He could practically hear Knuckles rolling his eyes.
But anger blinded me to the fact that you were a child yourself.
Yeah? Emotions are weird.
I am glad we are eyes now.
Knuckles said, his tone sincere and heartfelt.
You are a formidable opponent, but an even greater friend.
Sonic sniffed up stray tears that threatened to spill from his nose, and sat up slightly to grin at Knuckles.
Right back at you.
Good night, hedgehog.
Knuckles seemed flustered at the compliment, but appreciative all the same. Sonic chuckled under his breath and wished Knuckles a good night as well. The next morning, Sonic and Knuckles had to hastily untangle themselves from a shared blanket on the couch before lifelong embarrassment set upon them. It was one of the best night's sleep either of them had gotten.